All right, I want to bring you an important update, if I can now, from Victoria. Sky News Melbourne reporter Julia Bradley joins me live. Julia, we know in the UK they've scrapped restrictions altogether. And while Daniel Andrews didn't go that far, today he's announced some easing of restrictions. We know public servants are set to return to the office, but only 3 days per week at this stage. Good, but still a fair way to go, isn't it?
It's still far from normal here in Victoria, Peter. We heard the state government today announce that our mask rules will be easing for most of our indoor settings by 11:59 p.m. on Friday, but they are still going to remain in a number of key settings. So firstly, for people who are accessing public transport, also people who work in the hospitality or the retail sector, people who work or who are visiting a hospital, and also, crucially, students who are between grades 3 and grade 6 at school. Now, I put to the Premier today exactly why the mask rules were remaining for these particular cohorts, but being lifted for secondary school students. And he suggested that a lot of this is down to lower vaccination rates for the younger age groups. Another question was put to him about, well, the younger you get, the evidence shows that you are less of a risk of being severely impacted by COVID-19. But he suggested that this is really an appropriate response, given that kids in that age group can still transmit the virus to vulnerable people. Here's some of what the government had to say about this discrepancy in rules today.
And hopefully we can get to a point quite soon where case numbers are so low, where vaccination rates are so high as one factor among many, so few people are in hospital, that we don't have to have masks on anywhere.
Now, Peter, also easing from midnight on Friday, also the work from home directive. So workers are now encouraged to head back into offices, and from Monday as well, the remaining restrictions on elective surgery will be lifted. So any type of surgery can be done in both private and public hospitals.
I watched the press conference, Julia, and you certainly went toe-to-toe with the Premier over these allegations of bullying inside his office made by one of his MPs, soon to be expelled from the Labor Party, of course, Kaushaliya Vaghela. What did he have to say?
Well, the line of questioning today, Peter, was really centred around revelations that WorkSafe is in fact investigating how the Premier and his office handled these bullying allegations that were made by that Labor MP Kaushaliya Vaghela. Now, I asked the Premier whether or not he believes he will be cleared by that investigation. He certainly didn't want to linger on the topic too long. He was also asked whether any of his staff have been contacted by WorkSafe to be interviewed, and he said to his knowledge he isn't aware that anyone has. Now, this is all in relation to those bullying claims, as you say, put forward by Kaushaliya Vaghela, and she is that MP who sensationally crossed the floor of Parliament a number of weeks ago to vote in favour of Adam Somyurek's motion to have the red shirt saga reinvestigated. But since then, she's brought these bullying allegations to light, and she says that it took more than 2 years for the Labor Party to take those allegations seriously. But the government, though, have refuted that, and they say that they quickly acted upon that soon after a formal written complaint was made early last year, also pointing out that a former advisor to Daniel Andrews was sacked in relation to an investigation of this allegation that was made. Here's what the Premier had to say about this today.
Clearly, inferences, or indeed just outright comments that this was not taken seriously and wasn't dealt with appropriately are wrong. You don't dismiss someone if you doubt the claims that have been made against them.
Of course, another day and another political ally of the Labor Party, or perhaps even the Premier, gets a job in the Andrews government, in the bureaucracy, senior jobs yet again. Tell me about this latest appointment to VLine.
Well, Peter, this is all in relation to a sensational story that was front page of the Herald Sun today, and it relates to a former Labor political candidate being given a plum job within VLine, which is Victoria's regional rail network, despite having no prior experience in the transport industry. The person in question, Matt Carrick, was a former factional operative within Labor during the Brumby-Bracks era, and he also at one stage went toe-to-toe with Alan Griffin in a run for the federal seat of Bruce in Melbourne southeast, even though he was unsuccessful in that. Now, the report suggests that he was appointed as interim CEO of VLine last year, but that appointment was secretly extended to 2026. And the report suggests that at the time, industry insiders were pretty upset with that appointment. It's a CEO job. They suggest that really it should be given to someone with more experience in the transport industry, given just how much safety responsibility you'd be taking in. But the state government have said he was the right person for the job, given his prior experience as a CEO at another company to help with a time of restructuring for VLine. But certainly it has led the opposition to, I guess, really brand this as a jobs for mates scandal, suggesting that Labor is putting its people in high-paid positions, in high-profile positions, so that they don't get any political pushback on decisions.
Julia Bradley, thank you for that. Very comprehensive. As I often say, if there's a change of government in Victoria, the place needs to be scrubbed top to bottom across the state with disinfectant.